episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation, and welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor. This, of course, is Great Scott. It's your True Crime Phil, a show so good, shakalaka, it happens every single Friday, and this is no exception, other than the fact that today's show is earlier. And wildfire, I am delirious. This was a very long week, an exceptionally long week. Yesterday started at a bank, Bank of America, and I was there way too long. And it ended with Carm and I booking travel for our book tour. And what Carm did not understand through this process that should have taken 20 minutes but took 3.5 hours was that half the time I was speaking to automated customer service reps, and she would say, Joel, like she would scream my name in the middle of it, or she would take a FaceTime call, or she would play with her computer, and every single time the customer service robot would be like, I cannot understand you, Mr. Waldman. And this went on for hours and hours. Got so bad that at one point I had to bite down on a credit card just to relieve my stress. And it left a little bit of a bite mark, which Phil Waters back in the heyday, if he was looking for evidence, that would have been what he calls a clue. Why would there be a bite mark on a credit card? And Phil would probably say, man, this son snapped out of frustration. Look, who's biting on the credit card. Here's his canine tooth biting on his mother's credit card. He must have done it. Luckily, it did not escalate to that point. But yes, the short answer is I'm feeling sassy. Scott Duffy, I cannot help but notice you come to us from yet a different room. This is like a 23-bedroom mansion that you're in. What room are we in today?
This is the main living room.
The main living room. It looks so cozy. What is that? Is that a photo behind us or a painting? I can't tell.
That is a photo of Cape May in the winter.
Oh, that's beautiful. Is that snow? I can't see.
It is snow. Yeah.
Wow. Look at this. So look at this. Kimberly, oh my Lanta. Forgot about my Lanta. My dad was a big Metamucil guy. He loved Metamucil. That's a fiber thing. Helps you with that business. So, yeah, it's going to be, no matter what today, we're going to have fun on this show. Scott Duffy, I can't help but notice also that you're wearing an FBI T-shirt. When you wear an FBI T-shirt, do people assume that you're with the FBI? Like if you went to Wawa, I hope everyone knows what Wawa. How far is the nearest Wawa to you, Scott?
Oh, I have 3 within 3 miles.
You do. And is there a favorite one of those 3?
Yeah, my go-to it would be in the Wawa and Limekiln Pike in Glenside, Cheltenham Township. It's my go-to.
And if you go in on a warm day and you're wearing an FBI shirt, do people say, "Hey, were you in the FBI?" Do they say that to you?
No, I probably wouldn't be wearing it outside, but I'll wear it around, doing lawn work and whatnot. Sure, I'll wear my T-shirts, get all dirty and toss them.
And Scott Duffy, finally, to those who are not from the greater Philadelphia area and are not familiar with Wawa, how would you explain Wawa to someone?
Ooh, let's see. I think it's so there are a couple of different types that I traveled throughout the United States, but their names are escaping. It's like your go-to one-stop shop. You can get homemade deli sandwiches, drinks of all kind. Of course, your convenient stuff, whatever, packaged foods, and you can get gasoline at a lot of them now too, and they have some pretty good rates. So yeah, it's a one-stop shop for pretty much anything.
Look at this, Ned Smith. This could be a record. It's been 5 minutes, and Phil has. The ratio is certainly in Scott's favor at this point, and I kind of love it. What's your, just to keep it going, what's your favorite item at Wawa? In Jersey, we call them subs, like a sub sandwich, but in Philly, you call them hoagies.
Hoagies, yes. Yeah, so turkey and Swiss hoagie is my go-to.
But by the way, one other Philadelphia story while we're here, and then we'll get Phil in the mix. So last night, as part of this torture, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed should have had to try to make reservations while sitting next to my mother. We would have confessed immediately if that was the case. The FBI is using the wrong tactics, the wrong torture tactics. Next time you want a terrorist to speak, Scott Duffy, have them make reservations sitting next to my mother, and you will get whatever confessions you need. But in a series of reservations that I had to make, Jenny Price explained. Hi from Hungary. What's up, Gabby? Gabi. I bet you in Hungary it's Gabi, but hello. The only thing I know in Hungarian is nem tudom. It means I don't know, and I don't know how I know that. Jenny Price, Wawa is the best gas station grocery store. Like 7. Okay, so Scott, yesterday, the last leg of this trip is Philly back to New Jersey. And I said, I'm not, why would I ever do anything other than take Amtrak? So I call Amtrak. It's like a 47-hour process to get. Finally, I get this. How can I help you? It's Amtrak. I'm like, this person's definitely Jersey. Definitely Jersey. I'm like, oh, hi. I'd like to book a one-way ticket for my lovely mother who's sitting next to me and myself. Where are you leaving? What time? I'm like, miss, where are you from? She goes, born and raised in Philly. Born and raised Philly proud. We were best friends, and told her to buy a copy of Surviving the Survivor. Here you go. She said she probably wouldn't, but I tried anyway. Phil Waters, how's your week been? You are unusually look at this. I am not T-Pain says Phil seems upset. Are you upset, Phil?
No.
Are you not upset?
I'm just sitting here listening to the banter between the two of you so that Scott can get his much needed and much cried for camera time and speaking time. So I'm just enjoying the moment.
He's getting his ratio up. Look at this, Miss Little Bones. I love seeing new names. Shout out to my friend Mish Cavernos in Cape Town. But Miss Little Bones, hey all, 1 a.m. in the Gold Coast. I'm so tired, but I love a live. I love a life. I love a live. I don't know. Maybe that's an Australian expression. I have no idea. But in any case, you look good or sound good or something. So yeah. Let's get the show underway. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, she loves a live. Oh, she loves a live show. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm exhausted. I'm sorry. Here we go. Yeah, Amtrak ain't no bullet train, or in France, what we call it, TGV. Yeah, the TGV. I've been on that. Actually, the bullet train. Our trains are terrible. Phil Waters, what's going on with the infrastructure in our country? Amtrak's terrible relative to Europe. Our airports are horrible. What's going on? Do you have a solution?
Well, my solution would be is we need to start putting our tax dollars toward the things that are important rather than a bunch of social engineering programs.
There you go. You heard it from Phil. I better veer into this topic of the day before this. Charles in charge. I'm making this a point. I did not ask this. COE, can we please pull? We're going to have some fun Carm videos for you in this show. We'll have tour book dates and some. COE just read me a story that is totally insane. COE, if you want to text that to me, I'll be happy to share it with the crew. It's not a true crime story. It's just more intriguing than that. But on a serious note, we are going to be discussing Bryan Kohberger today for as long as we can all last. Bill, of course, does not mention his name, but I mentioned the victims' names. Of course, we've got Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, their lives taken way too soon. Phil Waters, since you are America's most respected detective, I will defer to you. There's chaos breaking out in this case right now. There have been a pair of hearings. And basically, we'll get into the details of this in a moment. But what came of the most recent hearing is that both the state and the defense now have publicly on the record said that the evildoer did not stalk one of the victims, despite reports to the contrary. Does that surprise you? Does that do anything to you? Does that move you in any way to learn that he did not stalk anyone after all these reports that there was stalking?
No.
And how come? That's open-ended. That's open-ended. That's open-ended. How come?
Well,
Why?
Well, they're just all that crap that went on was a bunch of folks coming up with a bunch of conspiracy theories and crap they throw out there to confuse the facts and the journey for the truth. And I don't look at you used, what did you say, the cases in chaos or something? I don't see that. I think this is a good thing that if they felt like they needed to come out, if both sides needed to come out and say this. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. I mean, it's not going to determine the prosecution of this case or the defense of it. So it's not going to be brought up. It's not an issue. So I just, I guess they're trying to get ahead of all the speculation that's going to come with the trial and people still trying to interject their own personal conspiracy theories into this thing. So clarifying that up front, I don't see that it's anything it's neither here nor there. To me.
Here's something that's here and there. Miss Cece, Phil, when are you off to Hawaii?
May 13th.
May 13th. I can't come a day too soon because I get to see my man Nugget.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a little water problem in Hawaii.
You did. Tell us.
Yeah, the water company's really, really good where we live. Well, they call whenever there's an inordinate amount of water that goes through the meter. And I got the call about last week, and actually, it was this week I got it. And they were informing me that 53,000 gallons of water had somehow gone through my meter. So
how many? 50,000? Did you say?
53,000 gallons of water.
And how much did that cost? It's a lot.
$358.
Oh, that's not a lot. In Los Angeles,
I mean, our normal is about 12,000. It's around between $60 and $90. So that was that was a significant amount. But so we have a company that's coming out, and our plumbers couldn't find the leak. Fortunately, it's not in the house. It's somewhere between the house and the meter. So we have a company, good bunch of guys coming out, and they pump helium into the lines, and they're able to determine where the leak is located. And then our plumbers will come in and dig the trench and repair it, and we'll be better. But but thankfully that happened before we're headed back. So we're going to get that all tightened up, and we'll be in good shape. But yeah, we're looking forward to heading home.
I'm going to digress. By the way, TGV, train à grande vitesse, high speed in English. That is a train. Let me digress here for a moment because you're talking about a plumber. I've unfortunately had to hire a bunch of plumbers at my house, and it has been expensive to say the least. Some neighbors taking a lot of outdoor showers still. Then I saw a story yesterday. I live here in Miami, as you know, and Scott Duffy, take a guess at what tuition at the University of Miami is going to be next year for 1 year for one student to go to the University of Miami. Give me a number.
58.
Phil Waters. Is she frozen?
And that's a state school, right?
No, it's a private school. University of Miami is a private school.
Oh, is it? University of Miami is a private school. Okay. Oh gosh, private school. I would say you're talking about each semester, or
I'm talking for the 1 year, 2 semesters.
1 year. Oh, I would say probably 85 to 100,000.
$93,700 for 1 year of the University of Miami. Now, let me tell you something. I have 3 kids times 4 years, that's 12 times 97,000. That's 1.2 million. What the is going on in this country? And let me tell you something. A plumber is making more money, I guarantee it, than an average college, graduate who's out of school for 10 years.
We need more plumbers.
We do. I'm out of my mind, Phil. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to sell both of your Ferraris. I hate.
Well, just don't send them to the University of Miami.
Phil,
that would be my solution.
Phil, I'm begging you. I'm going to have to sell both of your Ferraris. That's just to get one of my kids through college. I mean, this show's already derailed, but
well, you know what? I mean, maybe college isn't going to be for all of them.
I hope not.
Because look, I mean, right now where we need right here, what Wildfire just said, we need more skilled workers. We need more trades. We need more people out there that are plumbers, that are welders, that are, we need those people. Mm-hmm. And you can make a very good living doing all of those things. So, I mean, I went to college and all that good stuff, but I'm just saying that and the institutions, the colleges now have been destroyed in terms of the environment, the atmosphere, and the purpose of going to college in the first place. So, they're outrageously expensive, and they all have endowments. I mean, they're just
look at Ivan's comment. You don't know what to do? Send them to trade school, you big dummy. I love Ivan calling me a dummy.
There you go.
Learn
how to be a mechanic. Exactly. I mean, there's all sorts of options out there.
93 U of M for the 13th grade. No thanks. Yeah, and I mean, look, I live right here, and it's a good school. It's not the best school, and you're gonna pay $93,000. It's crazy. Too bad the kids didn't take the COE's last name, or they'd be eligible for. That's probably true. I'm not going to go there, Space Coast. I'm going to get too much hate mail, but that is definitely true.
Well, I'll tell you, that's the answer. Your kids need to get scholarships.
Yeah, that's it. Got to get scholarships. Anyway,
if they're college bound, that's going to be the deal.
Yeah. So my oldest child, I've said this before, she's unbelievably gifted with, there's a place called the Design Lab, and she makes her own clothes, like dresses, super cool. And I'm like, you should become like a clothing designer. She does really amazing stuff. Then my middle kid, the 4 or 5 year olds, obviously too young. The middle kid loves to sing, and she's a character. So I'm like, just become a rap artist. They make a lot of money. And she's like,
okay, you need to get her off of that track. Get her off.
She becomes like Don Henley.
Remember the story of Flip Dippy. Just remember, get her off that track, get her out of that crap, and get her moved on to something else. Classical music, something much more productive, and that is real music, by the way, which I'm sure will get everybody going.
By the way, Jennifer Kornman here. My son got. By the way, the ratio is slipping back to Phil's side here. My son got a $100,000 scholarship. Well, I'm not even going to worry about this right now because I've got too much else to worry about.
Start saving now.
And maybe this will be her rap name, Flip Dippy. So, okay, so back to this. So Scott Duffy, we're talking Bryan Kohberger. So these new details emerged because there was testimony from a consultant. This gets kind of wild here, and I'm just curious to get your take. So there was testimony given by a trial consultant to both the state and the defense. And this survey, he took a survey basically, and again, we'll get into some more of the details. This consultant was hired by the defense to go and survey 400 people to see what prospective jurors might do. But this person intentionally lied on the survey to try to figure out basically if there needs to be a change of venue, which is what they determined there needs to be because it's too biased there. But as part of this whole thing, again, once again, it was determined that Bryan Kohberger, who there had been all these reports and allegations that he was stalking either in person and or Mish says the courtroom was tense. This is true. The COE was going to pull up stuff, but we play musical computers, so she's working on it now. But what came of it is, no, he didn't stalk anybody after there was all these media reports that he was in fact stalking. And this is both the state and the defense saying that. So I will ask you the same question I asked Phil Waters. Does this surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me. Like what? I mean, the defense or both sides, they're doing their best to put their case forward, or in the case of the defense, to defend it. So, isn't that their job to kind of discredit the things that are out there publicly? But when it comes to a courtroom, it will be different. I mean, only evidence is allowed. So, and with regards to the stalking, and I don't know what the prosecution has, but I can tell you of the many stalked victims I have interviewed over the years that the stalker never believes they're stalking. They just need a second or 2,000 shot. It's the way it is.
So Phil Waters, I have a feeling we're going to be through this whole story in about 3 minutes, and then we'll just talk about other stuff for this show because it's Friday. And it's been a long week. It's been a long life. Someone was just telling me to breathe and not worry so much. Boho Hobo, whose songs about Donna Adelson and the Adelsons, we still need to get on COE on our YouTube channel. She wrote us original songs about the Adelsons, if you can believe that. I think that the kiddos should be podcasters. Yes, this could be a generational thing. This could go on for thousands of years. So imagine we come back in a new life, Scott Duffy, and the show is still going on 1,000 years from now. It's amazing what we've built here. Education is free here in Norway, even university. Phil, how come it's not free here, Phil? Look at Phil. Look at Phil.
It's not free in Norway. Who do you think's paying for it? The people that live there. Good grief, man. How freaking stupid can people be? My gosh.
Phil loves you. Listen, it's the end of the week. Phil is thank you. Look at this. Jenny Price starting a college.
Free then I would suggest that all those that want a free education move to freaking Norway then.
Yeah, Raymond Weiss brings up a good point. Amazon, I think, paid $0 in taxes a couple of years ago. $0 in tax. Amazon. How does that make sense? I just don't.
Well, let me say something. Corporations do not pay taxes. Okay? They don't pay taxes. The people that buy their product pay the taxes. It's all passed on to the consumer. In my business, I don't pay taxes. I charge my clients the taxes. And in fact, I just made my payment for sales tax to the great state of Texas. So, I mean, people get a freaking grip here.
So what do you think is, by the way, this came up with the Oklahoma people, no offense to your home state, but there are all these sovereign citizens out there. What do you think of these people that they're
all over the place. They're all over the place. I will tell you what, that's an interesting group. The only law enforcement that the sovereign nation, those folks that are part of that, recognize are the sheriffs. And do you know why?
No idea.
Because they are elected officials by the people. So, I ran across a couple of those when I was in patrol here in Montgomery County. We had some sovereign nation folks. They don't have a driver's license. They don't recognize that they're accountable to the government. And it's an interesting group.
What would happen if you wanted to arrest one of these guys? Would they say, no, Phil Waters, you can't arrest me. I'm sovereign.
Well, that doesn't prevent the act from happening. No, they can say that all day, and they can tell the judge that. I guess you have no authority over me because I'm a member of the sovereign nation. But, Scott, you probably dealt with those guys, didn't you? Sovereign nation guys.
Yeah, we got quite a few. I've had one that would try to tie me up in court with all these handwritten lawsuits. It's an amazing thing to read.
Well, they're very knowledgeable. I mean, in terms of their their ideology
Yeah.
and the basis for. I mean, they're pretty astute. It's pretty impressive. I mean, to listen to these folks present their argument, not convinced of anything, but still, they make an argument.
Yeah. Look at Rebecca. I'm a little behind. My husband just told me in 1995, it cost $25,000 a year to go to the University of Miami. What's crazy is that wages haven't really gone up. Wages have been the same. Like a news reporter in New York City in like 1980 made more than what a news reporter in New York City makes today, which is kind of crazy. So wages have really stagnated over the years. But this is a true crime show. Mo says love Friday shows with these guys. Not sure why, but I don't want to sound immodest as here. Look at Ned Smith says it best. Nothing is free. I don't want to sound immodest, but I feel like we're on par for what could be the great Scott, It's Your True Crime Phil episode ever. I don't know what else is going to unfold in the next 90 minutes, but this could be one for the books, I feel like. So let's mix it up today. Moving on here, Phil Waters, here's a quote from Bill Thompson. He's the Latah County prosecutor. Bill Thompson's got that big white beard. Speaking about this,
are we back on the evildoer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I go back and forth.
Okay.
I'm like Alec Murdoch. I weave a tangled web. So Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson says, and I quote here, this is about this questionnaire that had false information that they pursued without permission from the judge. And the prosecutor says, the state is coming from a position of being practical and trying to use common sense here. It seems the position of the defense is it is okay to risk tainting additional jurors in order to ascertain bias of other potential jurors. And I'm not sure that's the way this court should do business. So he was basically arguing, look, the defense is ruining this case because they're going out and basically disseminating false information to try to figure out what the deal is with potential jurors to then push for a change of venue. It's kind of complicated, yet it's not complicated. But does the state bring up a good point here? Why are you asking these questions? Why are you not getting permission from the judge? Why are you issuing this questionnaire? You're going to taint potential jurors in this case.
I think that's a reaction from the defense because they know they have a very steep climb to defend the evildoer. And to me, just on what you've said, if that's what they're doing, I think it's unethical at best, but I guess they're trying to, sway a jury before it ever gets into place and taint that jury. And if they would just move forward with what needs to be done, they've made the request for a change of venue. And I don't see that as being a bad thing if they do decide to change the venue. I don't see that as a bad thing for the prosecution. So they need to do without sensationalizing this thing any more than it already has been. These defense attorneys need to do their jobs, and that is to provide the best defense possible for the evildoer. But don't get out here and try to try this case before it ever goes to trial, and try it in the social media circles. And it appears to me that that's what they're trying to do. And if the overall goal here is to taint a potential jury pool, then shame on them. I mean that's not the way to be doing this thing.
So Scott Duffy, I wrote down some of the questions this jury consultant, and he's got quotes here to defend himself. But here are some of the questions. Have you read? And this was a phone poll that went out just with Moscow is a very small town. This was within, I think, the Moscow area, not even narrower than Latah County. Maybe it went out to the Cole County. I'm not sure. But here's some of the questions. Have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania? Have you read, seen, or heard if police found a knife sheath on the bed next to one of the victims? Have you read, seen, or heard that DNA found on the knife sheath was later matched to Bryan Kohberger? Have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger owned the same type of car reported on the video driving in the neighborhood where the killings occurred? That's some of the questions. I don't know. Do any of those raise any alarm bells for you?
For what the defense is doing, I mean, I look at it this way: that it's, I guess they're trying to bolster their case to move it, but I'm not sure where they want to move it, because this was a nationally aired case, and he's not from there. So I would imagine, even though that is where the crime took place, he himself is not from there, other than going to school, and so to as opposed to if he went to school where he resided and grew up, and then is to have been charged with committing crimes in his hometown. I could get the whole aspect of, hey, we need to move this case. This is just, it's too close to home. But here it's, I mean, they, in certain regards, they have a right to hold the trial where this crime took place, especially for somebody who is foreign to that territory. And to put this survey out there, you're putting into the minds of potential people who will be called as juror members to say, hey, I got this form. Okay, you're disqualified. So I'm a little taken back by putting out this survey, which is now putting information into people's potential jurors that may not have already had that information. Now they're going to do research, etc. So I think they're stirring the pot, and they're doing everything in their power to force the judge to make a decision that otherwise wouldn't have been made. So I'm not sure where this is going.
Judge is not happy. Phil,
let me add something here.
Please do.
The nature of those questions. This is a questionnaire that was sent out to the general public.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know how they do jury selection in Idaho.
Phone survey.
But however it got out there to the general public, and I don't know how they do jury selection in Idaho. But I can tell you that those questions are the questions that would be asked in voir dire as they are trying to put jurors on the panel. So those are all questions that should be asked in voir dire, not sent out over a telephone. So that to me is remarkable. They're trying to voir dire apparently the entire county, over the phone, which is disgusting. And so to me, it goes beyond unethical. That is just wrong on so many levels for them to try to pull that stunt.
Yeah, the judge was not happy. I can hear the COE typing away. It sounds like a chipmunk chewing on wood. That's the sound that I can hear coming from the other room. And the COE was supposed to get a sound of judge, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Sorry. So, Phil, here are some of the other questions. Have you read, seen, or heard if the cell phone tower data showed that Bryan Kohberger made several trips near the victim's home in the month before the killing? Have you read, seen, or heard if the university students in Moscow and their parents lived in fear until Bryan Kohberger was arrested for the murders? Have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger said he was out driving alone on the night of the murders? Have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims? They knew that he didn't, and they asked that question. You're shaking your head, Phil. Please elaborate.
All questions for voir dire and disgusting. That's the word. Excuse me for just a second. I need to plug my power.
Phil?
Yeah, that whole thing is disgusting, and those defense attorneys ought to be ashamed.
Lindsay had an awesome. By the way, Carmen and I were on the Silver Lining podcast today with Adam Cox and Uncle Rex Connor. We had a great time. The show, I believe, is going to drop 1 week from Tuesday. new content over on Patreon. Yes, we had quite the wild ride last night with Carm, and that all went up on Patreon. You can support us there, and the content will be available for you. Scott Duffy, I mean, someone said, so move the venue, no big deal. Is it a big deal? I mean, I feel like it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's a big deal anytime that that venue has to be changed, because it changes the whole dynamic. For of course, this is a defendant who is afforded in the legal system every imaginable resource and right to defend him or herself. So the case takes place where the crime takes place, and then to move it, you are talking about, of course, additional expenses, but of course the legal system is going to bear that cost, and the victims' families now have to do whatever they need to do, depending on how far out the venue could be changed. But I go back to, of course, it's received a lot of attention, but I would also imagine it has received no less attention throughout the entire country of any case like this, and so to specifically target these people with a survey, and I saw one of the chats about purposely tainting. I would totally agree with that, and what ultimately is going to be, like, what would the response be, and what would they have collected to give back to the judge to say, aha, see, everyone's tainted here? Well, you tainted them. So it is a big deal, but ultimately, if the judge can say, hey, you may have information, you would be living under a rock if you didn't have information. But as those questions are asked during the voir dire, what are you able to bring an objective mind to this? And you're going to hear it as evidence as opposed to conjecture or hearsay. And are you willing to weigh the facts accordingly? That's ultimately what it comes down to. And of all the jurors that I've been before, and I've sat at the table during jury selection and during these questioning process, of course, many of my crimes that I've charged are not known to the paper. They don't get media attention. So typically the jurors do not know what the case is about. But they're also taught, if you did learn about it or something similar to that, are you still willing to make an objective decision? And some jurors will say, no, I can't make, I'm biased one way or the other, this or that. So that it comes down to, what are you willing to do in the courtroom? And are you willing to put aside everything you've heard just as hearsay and conjecture, and weigh as a jury of his peers? I mean, that's what it comes down to. But changing the venue is, in my opinion, always a bad thing. And exceptions, of course, are made, but not just because people are aware of the case.
Yeah, I know. I have Tim Jansen on the show a lot, a criminal defense attorney out of Tallahassee, and he said that in his 38 years, there was only ever once a change of jury in Tallahassee. Sarah Adams, had the public not told the police prosecution, the survey would still be going on. This is a good point. Neuropsych Zena, I'm in Montgomery County, Texas, too. I knew I loved Phil. I feel like Phil would get along great with Neuropsych Zena. I don't want to digress from the seriousness of this conversation. I just can't get past this. Scott Duffy, I can't help but notice your goatee / soul patch is always beautifully manicured, coiffed, if you will. Do you shave the rest of your face on a daily basis? I know this is a personal question. Or do you shave every couple of days? How do you keep that? Is it a goatee or a soul patch? How do you keep it so prominently displayed on your face?
That's a So I think a goatee is mustache and right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
sort of what I would say Phil is sporting, a
Mm.
goatee, right? A nice manicure just here. So the answer is I do not shave every day, especially if I'm not on camera or whatnot or in front of the classroom. But I would say I'm probably shaving every other day. And then, of course, but I cannot grow a mustache. I just can't. It just doesn't
Mm.
look good. And I've tried. I cannot grow anything here. So if I've tried to grow a full beard, it looks horrible.
Mm.
I've done the soul patch, especially in my drug work, and the soul patch I like from here, and I've had it pretty far down. I did enjoy that.
How far down?
Um,
How far down?
I would say to low, just above my chest.
And that's
Um,
undercover work?
Not undercover, just when I'm working the streets. I mean, everybody knows, who we are, but it was just something I could wear, I could sport, and so did it. I couldn't for court, but so now I just kind of have this manicured. I don't know what you
I
would call
think Scott's trying to say is that he is facial hair challenged.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it
So
sounds
he's very limited into the facial hair that he can produce, and therefore he is just going with what he's got there. So
You were on such a roll. I took us off, but I really had to know the answer to that. Jay Bones here. Love the show. I'm not sure why. This is my go-to for all the latest in true crime. Not sure why, because we're talking about goatees right now. And these are my favorite best guests, but thank you. Wildfire letting us know. I don't know if for some reason I thought Wildfire was of the male species. I don't know why. I have no
It
idea
could
if
be.
Wildfire is male or female, but regardless, I shave my legs once every war, which is often now. I would assume that Wildfire is probably a woman then, because most men are not shaving their legs. But if you're a cyclist, then you do shave your legs. So
Swimming.
Phil is laughing because he has the most hair, so that's why he's laughing. Anyway, let's get back on track here. It was my fault this time.
well, since we are going to get back on track here, let me say something real quick about this change of venue stuff.
Oh yeah, please.
I know Scott said he thinks it's always a bad idea, but I would say this: look, when there's a change of venue, it doesn't mean the only thing that changes is the location of the trial. Everything else remains the same. The judge is going to be the same. The prosecutor is going to be the same. The defense is going to be the same. The defendant is going to be the same. It's all going to be the same. The only thing that changes is the jury pool and where it's drawn from. So I respectfully, on this issue, I would have to disagree a little bit with my colleague here, because I don't think that it is always a bad idea. I think it can be a bad idea in certain cases. But in this particular case, where I've seen they've talked about changing it, is I think it's the largest municipality, the largest city in Idaho. So, and that calls for a larger pool to draw from. So I just and look, you don't want something like this getting in the way of giving this guy, if he's convicted, giving him some sort of fuel for appeals. And they're going to appeal it anyway. But
Phil,
you don't want this to be an issue. You don't want this to be the issue. And I think in this particular case, I don't think a change of venue is going to be a bad thing. I think it may enhance the credibility of the prosecution and a possible verdict of guilty.
Annie K, this question's right up the alley you're talking about. Why do you think the judge didn't caution Ann Taylor? I mean, he seems very annoyed with her. Is he so concerned about a mistrial or appeals that he isn't admonishing the attorneys? And by the way, Blackwood Door, very generous. I will donate my mustache to Scott. Very kind of you. But Phil Waters, is it an appellate? I mean, you basically just said, it could be an appellate issue, correct?
Well, I think it could. I mean, they're going to go for anything they can to make an appeal, but I'm just saying that this would head off that aspect of it, and I just don't think you lose much here in the prosecution of this case, in this particular case. Now, I can think of other cases where the case was tried not necessarily because of a change of venue was requested, but it was tried in a different area, and it got the result that I guess people were thinking it was going to happen, and it should have been tried in the area where it occurred. So it's not always a bad thing, but in this particular case, I think it would be answering a bunch of questions that might be raised later.
Phil Waters, I hate to do this to you, but the question is being asked, and I never deny STS Nation. Have you ever shaved your chest? As we go back. Yeah.
No. When I was in, my chest did get shaved partially when I had both my shoulders operated on, but I have not initiated any shaving of the chest area or any other area for that matter, other than my face.
I knew this could be a show for the books.
I thought that the way I was reading that comment, I think there was a typo, but I thought it was insinuating that three of us shave our chest. It did say.
Well, I saw that three, and I thought they made there. I don't know what that meant exactly. I caught that. I thought they just a typo there, maybe, but maybe not.
Something we certainly don't do that together. Lisa in the lab. Look at this. Just got my tickets to see you in Carmen, Boston. Cannot wait. Hopefully the COE will put up. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm excited to meet you. I bet you look just like this avatar here. We'll find out in person. Jay Bones. This is a new name. I love these new names. And it says 50 plus. All of us guests can relate to that, sadly. I'm in upstate New York. Perhaps that's why I like you and STS Nation. I lived in Manlius in Syracuse, New York for a short time. Here's some sound. I'm going to play this for you. This is from the hearing. Here we go.
If they hadn't heard about it before, they sure as heck have heard about it now. That's the core concern that led us to this in the first place. We don't dispute the defense doing a survey. I said that last week. Please do a survey, but don't go around screwing with the knowledge that prospective jurors have or may not have. That's our concern.
That is Bill Thompson, the prosecuting attorney for Latah County. Phil Waters, he's passionate. Do you agree with his argument there?
That was the prosecutor, Bill Thompson, right?
Correct.
Well, he said that they didn't have a problem with them doing this survey.
Yeah, let's play it back.
I hadn't heard about it before. They sure as heck have heard about it now. That's the core concern that led us to this in the first place. We don't dispute the defense doing a survey. I said that last week. Please do a survey, but don't go around screwing with the knowledge that prospective jurors have or may not have. That's our concern.
So I guess it's the line of questioning.
Yeah.
To me, that the fact that he said something like, yeah, do the survey, but yeah, I encouraged them to do the survey. And then he turns around and says he doesn't like the way they did the survey. To me, he cancels out his own argument. If they want to do the survey, if it had been me, I would have said, you can do your survey. I want to see the questions you're going to ask before you do the survey. And then if there were some questions that were, I, as the prosecutor, would say, this is inappropriate, do not do this, then that's when I would say that at that point in time. Not say, yeah, go ahead and do the survey. I encourage you to do the survey. And then, he kind of got what he asked for. So now they're trying to do an end around and say, hey, wait a minute. He can't unring that bell. And I just, I think now making that argument, to me, if I were the judge, that would be the question I would have for him. Is what you approved it. Now you don't like the results of what they did. You encouraged it, and now you don't like the result. Well, you can't have it both ways.
I don't know. I don't know that he approved it, though. I think that he
said right there he encouraged it.
Well, but I think he was I might be wrong about this, but I think he was speaking.
Well, play it again. I'm just going on what he said.
Yeah, I think generally, the issue here is that the survey is leading, I believe, correct? Leading questions.
I
But
understand that, but your question, Joel, was about what he has said and about the survey itself. And I'm just saying that he says he knew about the survey, he encouraged the survey, didn't have a problem with the survey. Now he doesn't like the way they asked the questions.
although,
I'm just saying.
yeah, I think STS Nation will correct us. My understanding, and I'm wrong often, is that they went ahead and did the survey without any permission from anybody. The public informed them. And so what he's saying is, I don't mind a survey now that he found out about it.
Well, play it again. Maybe I misunderstood him, but I got the impression there that he knew they were going to do a survey.
He didn't approve it. That's what they're saying. He didn't. I don't think he knew about it till it happened. But either way, I don't know, Scott Duffy, what did you make of that? He seemed annoyed. Obviously worked up there. I've heard him speak a lot. He's not usually fired up that way.
Yeah, I took it as it's the questioning that really got to him. It's got it. As Phil said earlier, it is the type of questioning that a prospective juror is going to receive. And there's a difference between, and it sounds like, okay, you wanted to do a survey, whatever defense, we're not going to hold you back. But to go that far in that type of questioning, I think he's ultimately saying the defense is purposely tainting the prospective jurors through that survey, as opposed to a simple. You could have a 2-question yes or no. Are you aware that Bryan Kohberger was arrested? Are you aware of the media attention or something, or just to get a level of yes, I'm aware, or no, I've never heard of it. But to take it to that detail of a question, I could see that's where he's all heated up.
And Phil, this is a good point. This is something that's come up. So there's supposed to be a gag order in place. Kim Princess, if there is a gag order, how's the survey even allowed? Because they're obviously speaking publicly about it through, by way of this survey. Do you agree with that? They're breaking the gag?
I'm going to tell you something. We got the smartest people in STS Nation. That is an excellent question and an excellent point by Kim Princess there. So that place is so small up there, I find it hard to believe that the prosecutor didn't know something like this was going to happen, or the judge didn't know something like this was going to happen. I'm just responding to what I just heard that prosecutor say. And he said he didn't have a problem with it, and he encouraged it. He just didn't like the questions that were asked. I'm just saying that that's something that if they got wind of that, the prosecutor should have called the defense in, or the judge should have. And just as Kim Princess pointed out here, there is a gag order in effect, and the judge should have made it clear to the defense, whatever you're going to do in this survey, if you're going to do it, it better not violate the gag order. And it better not be something that turns out to be what it is. So, I'm just saying, once you allow this type of thing to happen, and that's my gut feeling here, is that there was something in the wind that this was going to happen. It happens. Now nobody's happy about it, and they can't put the genie back in the bottle. So.
This is probably the best way to describe it. The defense went behind their back. That's how the state feels. Sarah Adams explaining a little more. One person recorded the call because it was strange. They turned it over to the police and prosecution. That is how we all became aware of the survey happening to begin with. So that's how we found out. Now, the jury consultant who was hired is a guy named Mr. Edelman. He says, Scott Duffy, my focus is to assess whether or not media coverage is prejudicial, and whether or not it's led to opinions. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Your reaction. Phil has a strong reaction. What's your reaction, Scott? It does not matter if it is true or not, he says.
That's the statement from the defense.
No, this is who's working. This is a jury consultant who
Yeah,
who
yeah,
claims to have created the questions. By the way,
yeah.
he says he created the questions without any help from the defense, which I call BS on. But what do you say?
Yeah,
Bill,
well, I mean,
Bill's panties are getting wadded. We'll get to him in a moment. Go ahead, Scott.
the
I knew
defense
this would be a
knows
test of the ages.
the defense knows the work of the person or the company, whoever it is they hired, so they know exactly what they're getting when they've hired this individual. And it would be, I would say it would border on some sort of maliciousness if they hired somebody and said, "Hey, I don't want to know what you're going to do, but I know you do crazy things, so good luck with that." No, the defense knew exactly what was being asked and who they were hiring. So I don't buy that at all. I mean, just own up to it and say, "Hey, we did it," and that's that. So look what they've done. They've created now another media spectacle to further their case to you know to just move it to have a jury from another venue come in. So either way, I think they've won with what they've achieved or set out.
Let me say what I would have to say after this discussion and STS Nation bringing some stuff out about the incident, that it is clear to me this trying to have plausible deniability by the defense from the guy that they hired to do just what he did. The defense knew that this was going to be a turd in the punch bowl when they hired this guy to put this thing together. So, again, defense attorneys, my gosh, come on, guys.
Phil, sorry to interrupt. I'm not T-Pain. This is going to be a turd in the punch bowl. That's got to be a meme. It's going to be a turd in the punch bowl. Phil, continue on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm finished with my my rant.
Pam Hart Young comes to us from Moscow, Idaho. I don't know that she lives there, but I know she has grandchildren and she has ties to Moscow. Ann Taylor didn't review the questions on the survey! ! They went over it in the first hearing about it. There's a gag order and the potential evidence in the questions was out of line. Hey, it's Jay says, doesn't this prove unethical behavior on the part of legal counsel? And then let me just give you some of the results. So they got the results of some of this survey. 45% of respondents said that they heard that Bryan Kohberger, that they did hear that Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims. And of those 45%, 81% believe he is guilty. Phil Waters, what does that tell you? I mean, this is
how many? What's the percentage of guilt?
45% said they believed he did stalk victims, contrary to what the state and defense says. And of that 45% that believed that he did stalk, 81% think he's guilty.
Okay. The whole thing is a mess created by the defense to cause the exact discussion that we're having now. So I think that's disgusting, and I hope the judge reams them for it.
I think it's coming. He's been a little. I think he was getting upset, but kind of controlled anger. But anyway, Bill Thompson did argue that Ann Taylor, the defense, violated the gag order. And then Ann Taylor responded, she's tough, man. I mean, she's tough and she's experienced. She said, and I quote here, Scott Duffy, this is the defense now, Mr. Kohberger is my client and his rights are of the utmost importance to me. I'm his advocate. I want to help him. I believe in his innocence. And now the judge says, look, I don't know what the path forward is. How big a mess is this?
Well, I'm not sure what the defense motive here is. Is it to delay another trial date? Because ultimately, unless somebody comes forth that hasn't come forth, I would imagine every bit of evidence has been analyzed. Every witness that needs to be interviewed has been interviewed. And so you tighten things up and package them into a nice, presentable document. But I'm not sure what the defense is trying to do. Just delay the inevitable, and the inevitable being a trial. I mean, I'm just not sure what they're doing. Or is it some tactic that she wants off this case, and so are going to do things that really pushes that envelope to where the judge has to make some very tough decisions. But you know, I will concede to Phil about the change of venue. If a jury pool is brought from the outside in, and so thereby the trial takes place where in the where the charges have been brought, then so be it. Go do whatever you're going to do. Pay for the busing, the transportation, and the lodging, and move this to where a trial can take place. So the justice system can work. I'm just not sure what the motive of this defense attorney. Those are pretty harsh questions that have been asked in that survey, and I'm not sure what it proves. I really don't.
Yeah,
I think they were purposely trying. It was their purpose to taint the jury pool in that county so that they could bolster their argument for a change of venue, which I don't think they had to do or needed to do.
Yeah.
So this is just they're trying to stir the pot and thinking that it's gonna influence the judge even further for this change of venue thing. This was calculated. I don't see anything as this being an accident or the defense attorney, this Ann Taylor, she didn't know what was going on, that kind of crap. Don't believe one word of that. This was all calculated, and they're doing it for a specific purpose, is to taint that jury pool in that county so they can have a bigger argument for a change of venue.
And if I could, let's go back to Ann Taylor's remark. She absolutely believes in the innocence of her client. If she absolutely believes in the innocence of her client, she would not want him to spend another day in jail and have this trial. And if she absolutely believes, she would put on that defense, blow out every piece of evidence and witness that the prosecution has brought forward. And the day that he's acquitted is the day that he can then leave prison. So I'm just heard that remark is contradictory with what she is doing.
That's a great point. Pam Hart Young, Phil, if he's convicted, could the evildoer have an issue with his own counsel on appeal? My daughter and what is it? GS? Is that a godson? Grandson live in Moscow. I'm a little slow. I'm sorry. They just need to get this trial going, mudding the water, in my opinion. But could there be an appellate issue? And by the way, Jenny Benny, turd in the punch bowl, new to me. Go ahead, Phil.
What was the question? No, I would sure that can be a basis for appeal, because I can under most circumstances, when a person is convicted, especially in a death penalty case or a murder conviction, I know in Texas it immediately goes to appeal to confirm the conviction. That's the first thing that happens, and then and that's done, I mean, it's very quick. So when that happens and that conviction is confirmed, and then it moves on through the appellate process. And most of the time, the counsel that is representing them at the trial is not going to be the attorney that forwards the appeal. There's usually a change there. And so when that happens, if it happens in this case, there is certainly a possibility that they could use as an appeal incompetent counsel, and see if that, throw that crap on the wall and see if it sticks. So what I see happening here is posturing for possible appeals. That's what I see happening here.
There you go. Posturing for possible appeals. Judge Scott Duffy. Here's his quote. So, I mean, here we are. That happened. It's kind of unfortunate. It's something that I'm going to have to struggle through and figure out what to do. And I understand that there's some urgency to get that out. This puts him in a pickle, right, Scott? I mean, what does he do here? By the way, the judge said he's like, I can't just eliminate those 400 residents. And then Bill Thompson should suggest, well, let's redo the questionnaire, but without false information about this stalking. But it's like the cat is already out of the bag, isn't it, Scott?
Yeah, I see what the judge has some tough questions to get answered, and no judge likes being forced into a decision that otherwise wouldn't have been made. But ultimately the jury, whatever the judge's final decision to either have the jury transported in from another location or stay local, then I guarantee that will be another question of the voir dire that, hey, have you received a telephonic survey of whoever has been ultimately selected for that jury pool? And then that may be an indication that if it's a small number, then a disqualification or whatnot, and kind of let that take place. But if the judge was leaning towards going outside, and this may push it, and at the end of the day, I believe a judge is going to side on the side that is best for the defense, to say, I've given everything imaginable to not work against the defense, and allow the prosecution to put a case of evidence forward that ultimately a decision's made.
Always articulate and thoughtful. No different today. So this will get Phil worked up, which I like to do. Elisa Massoth, she's another one. We haven't heard her name. She's another one of Bryan Kohberger's defense attorneys. By the way, I'm curious how much. I mean, he's got attorneys, jury consultants. I don't understand how the state pays for all this, but that's a whole other issue. But this
dollars, that's how they pay for it.
Yeah, it's like Norway. It's free. It's free, Phil.
It's that free defense counsel. Yeah, there you go.
She started citing case law. This is her quote, Phil Waters. This is the other defense attorney. We as a defense team have the obligation and, frankly, the privilege of defending Mr. Kohberger and defending his right to a fair trial. And in doing so, I'm arguing the venue should be changed. We have to show you that there is presumed prejudice in this community. What say you?
They're just trying to, look, you can never do the wrong thing the right way. And that's why what they're trying to do here. So what they did was wrong, and they're trying to say that they were doing it in the right way. Well, you can't do the wrong thing in the right way. So her getting up there and trying to justify what they've done and blah, 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 with all this stuff about, what she's saying is factually true, that, yeah, they're supposed to provide the best defense, and yeah, blah, 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 but it's not the truth. So, again, it's lawyer speak for, we're just doing everything we can do to screw this thing up. So, because I'm telling you, when I see attorneys doing these kinds of things, what it tells me is the prosecution's got a pretty solid case.
Ooh, interesting. There you go. By the way, the judge is, he said he's going to issue a ruling on which way to go with this. And it was going to be this past week, but obviously that has run its course. And he's also pushed back all these change of venue filing deadlines, and also postponed next month's scheduled hearing for arguments from May into June. So everything now, Scott, I guess to what you're saying, is kind of working according to the defense's plan, which it's all getting pushed, delayed, yada, yada, yada. One final thing here, and then we will move on. This alibi deadline, Scott Duffy, the deadline for Bryan Kohberger's attorneys to submit their client's alibi if they plan to argue that defense at trial, it is April 17th. I think that's this week coming up. Yes, it is. So they've got to file this alibi stuff by this week. I don't truly understand that. What does that really mean, that they've got to file this week if they want to use that defense? They've got to let the state know what the discovery is related to that.
Yeah, I would think so. And ultimately you have to give time to the prosecution to find, validate, verify, poke the holes and whatnot. Is it going to be an alibi witness? Is it going to be a theory? It's ultimately, I would imagine it's creating enough time before trial so prosecution can say, okay, yeah, that's fine with us, and we accept that, and have done their due diligence to either mitigate that alibi. I've had defense attorneys provide last minute witnesses. I mean, literally within days of the trial, and they would just show up. We would have the original list of witnesses the defense plans on putting up, and then others would show up, and our job would go and try to interview these witnesses to say, hey, you're going to say, etc., under oath on a stand. We just want to know if you're willing to share with us now. And the witnesses would either say, I've never been asked, I've never been, are you kidding me? I've had that, to where they provided something very valuable to me because they're like, hey, I'm just part of the system. And so I would write up a report, and that would impeach the witness if it was going to be contrary to what the witness was going to say. And then the defense attorney would be, okay, I'll take that witness off. So it is a little bit of a game there. It's more, I've seen it more so from the defense side, where they'll pop up these witnesses that may or may not be called. And so I imagine this alibi, this official defense, is to say my client was not there and could not have committed the crime. And this is what we have to show that. That's ultimately what they're going to, if they can. And if they're still scrambling to get that in there, to me, that's a problem for the defense.
They say that there was talk about this thing happening this summer, and I'll be surprised if this thing even happens in 2025. But time to shift gears here, and literally when I was going to do that, here we go. Let's watch this for a moment.
No disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Oh, wow.
Phil Waters, never pleasant when someone dies. People would say otherwise to me. What people don't remember about OJ is that he was a Heisman Trophy winner, one of the best football. I lived in upstate New York when he was playing. Albeit I was very young. I had a Buffalo Bills helmet. Then he goes on, he does the Hertz commercials. He did Monday Night Football. I mean, he was one of the most charismatic guys. And then along came Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson, and all that changed. His legacy is going to be he got away with murder. I'm going to play this one more time, Phil. You had a little chuckle here.
It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
The most famous line, I think, in legal history there. Probably one of the smoothest defense attorneys ever. Phil Waters, you get the news that O.J. Simpson has died. Your next thought following that realization?
What were my thoughts when I heard he died?
Correct.
Hope he's enjoying his time in hell.
So, Phil, I assume you think he did this.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think there's any question that the evidence pointed, all trails led to OJ. All of them did. And I watched, in fact, we were in Hawaii when that happened. And I remember watching television when OJ had come back from, I think, Chicago, and was there at the estate in Brentwood with the police. And I turned to my wife and I said, "That's who did it." And she said, "Really?" And I said, "Yes." There's your suspect right there.
That was pre-homicide for you too. That was pre-homicide.
No. I was in homicide at the time.
Oh, you were? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
So, and then as it watched it unfold, of course, then and I watched most of the trial. The judge was horrible, and I think that's where I got my attitude about cameras in the courtroom. Although I was rubbernecking just like everybody else, but as a result of all of that and the way it carried on in that courtroom because of those cameras, what a miscarriage of justice there was. And they tried, and we were talking about change of venues. Garcetti, who I believe was the district attorney at the time,
yes, sir.
Gil Garcetti, he decided to try that case in central LA instead of trying it out in Brentwood where it occurred. And that was all political posturing and all that nonsense. So there was no way they were going to get a guilty verdict in the venue in which they tried it. And then it wasn't about OJ. It was about Mark Furman and use of certain words when he was blah, 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 blah. There were so many distractions in that case. And look, they called those lawyers for OJ the Dream Team. I mean, you had Shapiro, you had F. Lee Bailey, you had Johnny Cochran, you had all manner of people on that team.
F. Lee Bailey.
That were who? What?
F. Lee Bailey. F. Lee Bailey.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that, that, and he could afford it, and so. Those guys, Kardashian was on there for, that was his best buddy. And so I'm just telling you, that was an amazing trial to watch, though.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any, and that jury, and for all the evidence that was presented. And then they got the DNA stuff, and that got to be so complicated that the prosecution, in my judgment, and I've seen a lot of murder trials and been in them, I thought that was very, they should have boiled that down to some key points. The old Marine Corps adage, keep it simple, stupid, instead of getting in there and trying to explain all the scientific stuff and yada, yada, yada. And I tell you, if the jury was ever prone to even convict, that all was very confusing. And so, that whole thing was a circus, and it was just theater. And so I wasn't surprised. And then the jury came back, within an hour or something. It was some ridiculous amount of time. I mean, they were out and then they were back, and all of a sudden he's not guilty. And there's no way you could absorb that much testimony, that much evidence, and then go and come up with a verdict within that period of time. I mean, that was just, I think everybody was shocked, not the least of which was was himself.
OJ.
So, yeah, that was, and Ron Goldman, that family. I mean, such an incredible tragedy. And he's, he did interviews with people. There's an interview out there where, and he wrote a book or something like "If I Did It" or something. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And then he did an interview, and it was a discussion about if he did it. You ought to watch that interview. It is incredible, because the things, in my view, him detailing the things that he was detailing that was supposed to be hypothetical, you're just getting a confession from this guy.
Yeah, and then there was one interview he did where he literally, it was a female interviewer that kind of annoyed him, and at the end, jokingly, he picks up a knife and starts doing this to her, jokingly.
That's the interview I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so I'm just saying, and then of course he was going to, I think one of his declarations was that he was going to spend the rest of his life looking for the person who did this to Nicole and to Ron Goldman and blah blah blah. And I guess he spent, he was searching on every golf course across the country for that true suspect. So and then he gets the thing in Vegas when he finally gets put in prison.
Yeah.
And he spent 8 years, I think, in prison, something like that.
9 years.
And 9 years, and then he gets out, and he still, and of course the Goldmans and the Browns, they won the civil suit. He still owes them $100 million that he never paid him, and he knew he wasn't ever going to pay him. So he's good, good riddance.
Scott Duffy, some people don't remember this. By the way, this made Court TV. The only back then, no Twitter, no social media, no Facebook. God, the world was better. No Instagram, none of that crap. So Court TV ran it, made Court TV, and CNN. They had full coverage. I was teaching kids back then. I used to race home from school, and I would sit there on the couch and watch it for hours at a time, because obviously it was on the West Coast and I was living in New York City. But he did owe $100 million. Scott Duffy, what some people don't realize, it was a 9-month trial, 9 months. And you heard Phil, I don't remember the exact deliberation time, but it was, how would you go over evidence for a 9-month trial? But Scott Duffy, your reflection on OJ and the verdict and his death. In under 3 words.
God have mercy. Period.
There you go. Scott Duffy, do you think they'll ever find the real killer?
I think they did find the real killer. And this is I watched. I was a police officer back then, so I, in between shifts and whatever, I like many people watched, and that's probably what drew me to wanting more cameras in the courtroom. And it became, the most watched thing. But I agree with Phil. I think there was tremendous amount of distractions that defense were able to capitalize on. And what they did, the classic, it was not about defending O.J. Simpson. It was not about justice for 2 people who lost their lives in a brutal murder. I mean, it became focused on every imaginable piece of evidence collected and those who collected it, and a tremendous amount of time and money was spent to go after the reputations of law enforcement, who are human beings who happen to be great in their craft. But when you can put a microscope, put them under a microscope, and then pull out things really that are irrelevant to what they are, who they are, and what they were doing, and then to merge those into such a way to have destroyed their credibility, then, not to mention everything else in that era, with the Great Divide in society. But it's to me, it was an unfortunate aspect, but also a real, at the same time, what can be done in a courtroom when it's not properly judged, and then to come up with what you have today. So yeah, there's no doubt. I watched that and I saw the evidence, and and of course I will accept, as a law enforcement officer, I have my biases, but I also see that the evidence collected was overwhelmingly pointing to only one person. And a great defense team managed to do exactly what, attack the police and remove the police from the equation. Everything else falls apart.
Duffy, I feel like you would have been very fast back in the day, like on a foot pursuit. Am I accurate? Were you able to track people down? Nothing to take away from Phil, but Phil's more of a broad man, a thicker man who I don't know would be fastest on his feet.
Let me tell you something about that. In my day,
really, were you quick, Phil?
I could keep up with him. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Really? What I would give, by the way, this I'm gonna have you answer that. This comment blows me away from Jimmy McNutty. I love the name, by the way. I videotaped the entire trial, 170 VHS tapes, converted them to DVD. Wow. Still have them today. The entire trial must be up on the YouTube somewhere. But Jimmy McNutty, if not, you're literally holding on to gold there. I would love to rewatch that trial. It's literally, that is the time it takes to give birth, 9 months. But Scott Duffy, don't deflect, don't redirect, answer the question, or I'm trying to be Johnny Cochran. Were you fast back in the day? Could you track people down?
Oh, yeah. I was a sprinter, so I would be shouting during some of my foot chases. You better be able to run long, because I'm gaining ground. I'd be chasing. Yeah, I enjoyed the chase. And
so you would talk smack while you were running?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's nothing like it. And then anybody that's in earshot of that, some laughed, some were like, "What?" But it's absolutely talk smack, and it's the thrill of the hunt. I absolutely enjoyed a foot chase.
Look at this. Twyla Olson, what I learned on STS, Bill Thompson has more facial hair than Joel Fil and Scott. We bring you very important information. Phil Waters, I'm intrigued by this. So you were fast back in the day. I can't say that, brutally honest, the OJ case trial must be a record holder for the longest trial duration ever. It must be. I can't think of one, maybe, I don't know, in Europe or something, but American-wise, I can't imagine that. But Phil Waters, I can't get over this. So you're telling me that back in the day, the trial is on YouTube. Back in the day, you were fast on your feet, despite your thicker build than Scott, if I may phrase it that way.
I was. I worked out 4 or 5 days a week. I did. I ran. I played racquetball. I lifted weights. I did practice martial arts. I did a lot of things. Yeah. No. So back then, yeah, you're talking, a while ago. But yes, and like Scott, that was the one of the most exciting parts of being a cop. Being a harness bull out there was getting in that foot chase, and as you're approaching them, and they're looking back, and they can't believe you're still there. And it's amazing because you'll speak in a very calm voice. It's not like you're even running, right, Scott? I mean, it's not like you're even running, right? And you're talking like you're having a conversation with them. I mean, and you're running behind him. I told one guy that I was chasing. He was fleeing from an aggravated robbery where he pulled a pistol on some people, and I was chasing him. And I said, "If you don't stop right now, I'm going to shoot you."
Mm.
And he stopped. So
Were
got
you,
on the ground.
were you afraid he was going to shoot you back? This guy just was just responsible.
Well, I wasn't afraid of anything at that point. You know, I was young and no, I wasn't afraid of anything. I was just telling him what the result was going to be if he didn't get on the freaking ground. And so he heard what I said and he stopped. And then he turned and looked at me, and he had these ice blue eyes, like he was looking right through me. And I one move, and the thought that I had was, it was really strange, but the thought that I had is that when he turned and he looked at me, I thought to myself, he's thinking can I take the gun away from me?
Mm.
And then when I told him, if you don't get on the ground, I'm going to do this right here. And then like a veil fell over his face, complete change in his countenance. And he just turned around and laid on the ground, spread eagle, and I cuffed him up and took him back to the patrol car. But yeah, you remember that, don't you, Scott? The foot chases, the car chases. Yeah, that stuff's exhilarating, man. That's exciting stuff.
That's great. Hey, Scott Duffy, when you're trained in a foot pursuit, you always see this on like Cops and these other shows. Do you have to scream, "Get down, it's the police," or, "It's the police, stop running"? Like, what are you trained to say in that? And you have to like yell and scare them? What's the deal? How are you trained?
Well, they already know who I am because that's why they're running. So I'm yelling. Like Phil said, you're having a conversation. And at the same time, as serious as it is, you're also smiling and making jokes. Like wait till I catch up to you. You think you're actually going to outrun me? And they're yelling back like, I didn't do anything wrong. I said, well then. Stop running. It is really that banter. Of course, all this, I imagine, this was all the pre body cam. So I have no footage. It's all just up there. But
Scott, let me ask you this. How would there ever be a moment where you were just like a body's distance away and you just said, screw it, and you would dive onto him? Or would you have to, how would you know how close you need to be to actually take this guy down, if this makes any sense? Like, would you have to be right up on him, or would you attempt to foot trip him?
So I knew as the one who's chasing, I'm looking at their back, and of course, always watching the hands, where their hands, and they're, as long as they're doing that. But the my goal is I just need to get close enough to push them, because once I know I'm going to push them off balance and then watch them face plant into whatever it is, whatever terrain they're running through. So I just needed to get close enough to be that, like that domino, that last domino, to just take them off their balance, because they're doing everything in their power. They realize, like Phil said, they're constantly looking back. They're constantly saying, "Why are you chasing me? I didn't do anything wrong." And they're running for their lives. For me, it's like, this is pretty good. This is my test to see.
Good exercise. Yeah. Good. Here's my workout. My workout for the day.
It's right. This is my payoff.
Yeah.
So
I had a guy one time that was, Scott's talking about, they're looking at where you are, and you're having that conversation with them and all that. I had a guy one time that about the time he looked back to check me, he ran full speed into the rear bumper of a car and flipped completely over the other side over the trunk. And I thought, he's done. And then all of a sudden, by the time I get to, and so he goes over and I'm still sitting here and I see him go over the trunk and I'm thinking, I'm just going to walk over there and put handcuffs on him. And I swear, this is a true story. All of a sudden his head popped up over the trunk and he took off again. I was just amazed. I was like, who is this guy? So, but we caught it. And the thing about it was I'd already tried to handcuff him and he had my Peerless handcuffs on, which with the time were pretty expensive. And so I didn't even care about catching him to get him under arrest. I wanted my freaking handcuffs back. So, but we did eventually catch him. It was pretty, I mean, he went behind houses and was jumping over fences and I was just running in the front paralleling him. And, yeah, it was quite a chase. And then, we eventually did catch him. All my guys are, my posse's showing up and we got Fox units in the air and yeah, so we apprehended him. And then when I got him back, got him in the car. I'll never forget, his name was Terry Shields. He had some bogus freaking municipal, city warrants out for him.
Where do you think Terry is today?
Oh, I have no idea. I ought to run him and find out if he's even still alive. But
I would like to find him and get him on the show. It'd be a great episode.
Well, I tell you what, we got him in the car. I put him in the back of my patrol car. And the first thing he said to me, he looked at me, he said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry from running from you. I said, well, okay. So, yeah, those are all those, when you're out there and you're a harness bull and you do that stuff, man. I mean, it's when you're young and all that, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Look at Susan. She's the one whose dad was law enforcement police for 57 years. STS, I will send you an article of a foot chase my dad did when he was 69 years old.
Good for him.
Surviving the Survivor at Gmail. Phil, that begs the question, how would your takedown ability be today? You have a new knee. Could you chase these guys down today?
No, you're asking me?
Yes.
No. There's no running today. If they can outrun 932 feet per second, they can go.
What were Scott and Phil's most humorous takedowns? That's one question. But Scott, how about this? How heavy is your equipment while you're running?
Yeah, I think today's police officer, depending, is roughly 30 plus pounds. Yeah. Even I buddy of mine said up to 42 pounds. That seems a little heavy, but between vest and of course a duty belt that has just about everything on it. When I left, and that's the last time I carried a duty belt in 97, it was I think it was about 16, 18 pounds. And so much has come on the market technology wise that an officer has, not to mention the change of the vest. So it's up there.
I feel like we should devote a show to like Scott and Phil's best police stories because people are asking the funniest, the long. I think we should do that one week. I think Sandra from Liverpool is down for this as well. But shifting, so this story I was going to say for the very end, but I don't have the actual story. This is something the COE, thank you, Jennifer Jansen. The COE read this story to me right before we went on air. I don't have any information on it other than what I'm about to tell you. I just want to get Phil and Scott's take. This is a 97-year-old man who is reportedly now divorcing his 94-year-old wife because he found out she had an affair in the 1940s. Phil Waters, I don't want to put you in a predicament, but let's say 20 years from now, you found out your wife was, I don't know, having some shenanigans back in the 1970s. 20 years from now, would you call it quits? Would you say get lost? I thought this was an interesting story.
No, my wife and I have been very transparent about any past dalliances, and so no. I mean that we've been married almost 42 years now, and I don't see anything, even if we're around 20 years from now, that would change that bond at all in any way, shape, or form.
I love it. Jojo, I work late into the evenings and set my alarm to wake up for this live show. You must be over on the European continent, is my guess. This is a global audience. Scott Duffy, are you surprised to find out that this 97-year-old is divorcing his 94-year-old wife? I can't even imagine how they. By the way, I had a great Uncle Simon. It was my dad's uncle, and he was happily married to Irene. They had separate beds in different rooms for 50 some odd years, and they lived in Los Angeles. This is a true story. When they were 98 years old, they were like a year apart. 98 years old, they got worried about the earthquakes in Los Angeles. I think this was after the big one, like in Northridge. And right after that, at 98, they moved to Las Vegas. So you're never too old. But Scott Duffy, are you surprised by this, that he would have the energy to divorce his wife about an affair she had in the 1940s?
I mean, I'm sad. I don't know what. I don't know what. Has he been? Was it a shock? So who was it? Him or her? It was her.
If she had the affair in the 1940s, he just found out about it. Maybe she confessed because she's getting close to the end. Who knows?
Well, how long have they been married? I mean, has he been married to her since the 40s?
Like 77 years. I believe.
Okay. Wow.
Oh,
maybe more. Maybe 79 years. It was one of them.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
I guess my question would be, why did she feel a need to reveal that now?
I don't know.
Things
My
have been
question
going
is,
so great.
you think he's going to start dating again?
That I would like to see as a sequel.
Yeah.
Imagine if he gets on Tinder. Yeah, this is true. Deja vu. The Northridge quake was no joke. Imagine that this guy gets on Tinder all of a sudden and he's swiping left and right. What is this? Hold on a second. What is this? Can I add this? I don't know what this is. O.J. Simpson trial DVDs. A setup? Question mark. O.J. Simpson not guilty. God, what I would pay for that shirt. Let the juice loose. So I was in LAX right around the time of the trial, and I bought a shirt at the airport I remember this vividly, from a guy on the sidewalk, and it was the "if it doesn't fit, you must acquit" line with a photo of Johnny Cochran with that ski hat on and putting the glove on, and I have no idea where that shirt is, which seeing this pains me. Anyway, moving on, we're talking about geriatric stories now. The next one, I always have a theme. Yeah, this from Jimmy McNutty. It says it right there, COE. Are you not looking at your own graphic? It says Jimmy McNutty right there. Oh, sorry, I was reading. Okay, so moving on with geriatric news. I have a feeling Phil Waters is going to absolutely love this story. Phil Waters, an 85-year-old woman, was pistol whipped and shot at in this is in Idaho. She was being robbed. What the burglar didn't know, she had a disabled adult child in the home, and he went around to rob the house. And at some point, she just makes a run for it. This is Idaho. She had her handy .357 Magnum. She hid it in a pillow. He comes back. This 39-year-old guy named Derek Condon. He got a big surprise. She blew him away. She shot him several times. He rolled out into the kitchen and died. She was shot, 85 years old, and she's okay. This is a self-defense case. They already have announced that she will not face any charges. Your reaction to an 85-year-old woman with a disabled adult son defending herself in her own home with a .357 Magnum?
I think that's wonderful. Good for her.
I thought that. Phil Waters, would you feel, I mean, all joking aside here, if no matter how justified it was, would you feel bad killing another human? I mean, if this guy pistol whipped you, shot you, and you shot him back, would there be a moment where you're like, I feel bad, I just killed this guy?
I don't know that I would say bad. I would say that I would feel, to use Scott word, maybe sad that I was put in a position where I had to exercise deadly force.
Mm. Huh. This brings up a difficult question. Scott Duffy, do you know officers who have used deadly force? And how do they deal with that afterwards? Is it tough on them?
It is tough. It is tough. It's, you absolutely train, you absolutely, once you make that decision and go through the academy, you carry that weight that, hey, this is something I signed up for and will do. And you don't want to second guess at the moment arrives. You're always planning for that moment. So it is a career long journey. And of course, extremely small number, few are put into that position as, in the grand scheme of things. But I do have a few friends, and it weighs on them. But ultimately, they realize it was what they absolutely signed up and had to do. There was no other choice, both in their own minds, and of course, whatever the investigation bore out, that it was an absolute right thing to do. It is part of the job, and every officer has that, and you have to carry that, because when the moment comes, you can't second guess it. So, but it does weigh on them, to take that life. But they also balance it with a tremendous amount of support, the right amount of, because every officer, not only involved in a officer involved shooting, but in any type of traumatic event where they really had to exert some force, where you go, through your police psychologist to make sure, hey, where are you mental health wise? So, especially more today than back in my day. But
by the way, speaking of that, my friend Chief and former Detective Sergeant Chris Anderson from the show First 48, he just wrote a book called Man, You're Crazy. It's all about law enforcement dealing with these mental health battles. Now on to the real estate portion. This is going to rile people up. I know this. Someone asked me today on the podcast, the earlier one I did with Carm, if I instigate with Carm, and I think the answer is yes. But here I don't mean to. But this is in the news. This is true. Las Lucidora. I can't say that. These three men spend Fridays together. They all risk their marriages. We come to work every Friday, and we put it on the line. Chris Watts, no one likes this guy, in prison for the murder of his pregnant wife and two young daughters. Well, now his home has gone on sale. It is on the market, a Frederick, Colorado home. It is listed for $775,000. It includes 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. It's spread out across 4,100 plus square feet. The nearby Colorado Rocky Mountains can be seen from the property. My question, this guy is a complete evildoer. He's where he belongs, sick individual, horrible human being. But my question, Phil Waters, I know in New Jersey, and I believe in Florida, you have to declare if a murder didn't happen in the house, but you have to declare if someone died or was murdered in your home. Would you ever want to live in a house where a crime or a criminal like this is from? Or would you feel like there was bad mojo? Look at that, Jennifer Corman. I would not live there for free. Phil Waters, would you live in a home that was occupied by a horrific killer?
No. If it was, if I was prone to even purchase something like that, I would purchase it for the purpose of tearing it down and building something that has a more positive foundation.
Very glad to hear that. I'm glad. Probably shouldn't have been done pre-trial, but we were talking about that with the evildoer in Moscow. They raised the house, right? So, next real estate story, Scott Duffy. This is another horrible crime. And I think it's Ivins, Utah. Nikki Cudd says never ever. Ruby Frank and her friend Jody Hildebrand. They were both in a lot of trouble for child abuse. Well, her home, Jody Hildebrandt, where the kids were abused, this home is now on the market. It is a 9,100 square foot home valued at over $5 million, $5.3 million. They just reduced the price to $305,000. They can't seem to sell it. This house is beautiful. I've seen it in the Utah desert. Same question, Scott Duffy. Would it be worth it for you to get an expensive home at a deep discount, but you know that a horrible crime took place there? Would you just say, no, thank you?
Yeah, I could easily pass on that. I'm a firm believer in the Amityville horror, even though it's probably all made up. But it was enough seared into my mind growing up, seeing it. I was like, yeah, I don't need flies on my window to tell me go. It's.
I like that you I like that you believe in the Amityville horror. Oh, that's a great movie. I need to go back and watch that. I don't think
original.
I don't think I've seen it since. Should make my kids watch that tonight. Phil, I picked this story out for you because I know you'd shake your head. A 34-year-old woman. She worked as an astrology influencer. She's into astrology. And the day of the eclipse, she killed her partner, her 8-month-old baby, and herself after posting warnings because of the spiritual warfare that the total eclipse would generate. Your reaction?
Sad story. There's evil in the world. You know, there's nothing you can say about a story like that. That's just.
She threw, by the way, her 9-year-old child out a window, who survived but sustained injuries. There's just a lot of sad crazy in this world, and she really thought that this eclipse. A lot of people were calling for the end of the world right after.
Well, you know, this will get a lot of comments, I'm sure. But I could give a flying crap about the eclipse. And I'm always shocked at these people that just get so excited about something like that. I mean, they're letting kids out of school and all this stuff. I mean, to me, that is just ridiculous. And then you get somebody like that. Well, I read some article where some woman was running around shooting at people with a gun because of the eclipse, and God told her to do it because of the eclipse. So, you know, any port in the storm for some nut job out there that takes something that is a natural phenomena and turns it into some sort of communication from some force somewhere that causes them to commit an act of evil. Idiots. These people are idiots. So, you know, I mean, look, you can look at, there have been explanations for the eclipse for years and years and years about, you know, what it was about. And it's not even in my, you know, in the Cherokee Nation, the Cherokee, when they would see this occur, they believed it was a giant frog trying to eat the sun.
Yeah.
And they would come out with drums and making noise. And then when they got firearms, they were shooting guns off to run the frog off.
Yeah.
So I'm just, and you can look at any Native American and Indian tribes around the country, and they all had different explanations for what an eclipse was about, and they would do certain things. So I'm just saying that you know, those kinds of things, they occur, and people take something like that and turn it into something that it's not. And so, it's unfortunate that some of these people take something like that and justify in their own crazy brain housing groups that somehow taking people's lives is something that's being communicated to them. So you got to believe there was a problem before the eclipse occurred.
Yes.
So they had a problem before the eclipse occurred. And, you know, the eclipse, it didn't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So
Probably wasn't
yeah,
the first
these people were, the technical term we used in homicide, I think I've talked about. These people were nuts before the eclipse. They were nuts during the eclipse, and they were nuts after the eclipse. So just a pattern of behavior.
This is one way to put it too. People get carried away. Yeah, I think she got carried away throwing her kids onto
A little bit.
out of a car, I think. It just begs another question, though, off topic. Before the last story, COE, I thought we were going to show some beautiful penguin video. I'm going to get there and end it on a beautiful note. COE was typing away once again like I don't know, like it sounded like a woodpecker pecking on a tree. She claims it was the dogs. It was definitely not the dog. Oh, it says, give me 2 minutes. Sure. I'll just talk for another 5 minutes here. I've only been talking for 2 hours with these guys. But this brings up another point. So we had Chad Daybell. We did that yesterday. And we were talking about the guy is the most milquetoast boring. I say this guy should be a commercial actor. He's going to be in prison the rest of his life, but he literally looks like the insurance man, the milkman, the newspaper delivery. He looks like he could be anything. He's the most bland, drip dry guy. But he convinced people that there were demons in people's bodies. And then I was thinking of Marshall Applewhite from Heaven's Gate. Phil Waters, what is it about these people that can get other people to believe insanity? What is your take on that, on cults? Let's discuss cults for a moment, just to give the COE time to pull up. And by the way, Scott has to get going, so hurry up, COE.
Well, Marshall Applegate was the guy that got all of his little people there to put on their warm-ups and their Nikes and get in a bed and die because they thought the comet that was going over was going to pick them up. But yeah. But I mean, these people are crazy. These people are nuts. And these people that lead these cults, which he's one of them, I'm amazed. Well, it just goes to show that we are all searching for something. And when you get these folks that get these knuckle-headed freaking cult guys that figure out what their little rap is, and you find that there are people out there that seem, I mean, Jim Jones, I mean, pick out your cult, like Charlie Manson, pick out your cult, the Latter-day Saints guy, what was his name, Jeffers or
Jeffers, Warren Jeffers, yeah.
Jeffers, that guy. These people are all evil incarnate. And they find these people that are confused, searching, unsure about themselves. They've had tragedy in their lives, perhaps, or they're just confused, period. And they draw these people in. And then they convince them to do the most ridiculous things, like, taking their own lives or sending people out to murder people. I mean, it's just, the
David Koresh,
the deviant sexual stuff. Yeah, Koresh, he's another one. Yeah. And I mean, it's just these people are out there. We just need to, you got to be aware and finding these people. You always read about families that'll try to go and get their loved ones out of there and get them deprogrammed and so forth and so on. And it's just that stuff is out there big time. And these people, and the only time we really hear about them, I guess, is when it finally comes to an end, and it usually means that a bunch of people have died as a result.
I sort of feel like Scott Duffy with that extended soul patch could have been a great cult leader with his soothing, soft voice. He could have gotten that. Here, we've come full circle as we say goodbye here. Guys, I just got on and went to start. I love Wawa, but I love Buc-ee's in Texas much more. I've seen some Buc-ee's a lot. Phil, you're in Texas. Do you ever go to Buc-ee's?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of Buc-ee's close to the house.
You do? In Buc-ee's, can you buy like hats and shirts and stuff? Like, they have it all.
Oh, you can. Buc-ee's is pretty amazing place. You can buy just about anything in there. Food, I mean, it's a full service. The last thing you're in there to purchase is gasoline. That's what I'll tell you. So there's so much more going on inside that's where people, they go in there to get gas, but they're not there to get gas. They're there to go inside Buc-ee's and just live the Buc-ee's life.
Wow.
Look at
I think we should do a show in these type of
that'd be amazing. We do a show at
places. Wawa,
Let's do it.
Buc-ee's. I think down south there's any Royals, or is it Royal Gas?
Well, now there's there's Circle K's, there's a 7-Eleven. I see it. Thank you, COE. You're the best. Someone asked, who is the COE? Why is he always yelling at her? I hate when people say I treat my wife and my mother badly. It really hurts my feelings. I just want everyone to
They don't have a sense of humor, those people.
I love them, and I would do anything for them. So I just want you to know that. I also yell at them. So look at this. The Cult of Scott Duffy, followed by I follow Scott anywhere. Maybe we should start a cult. Maybe we're climbing up the wrong tree with this podcast.
I need a disciple. Phil, are you?
Yeah, you got to start with one.
No. I mean, I love you like a brother, Scott, but no.
Yeah. Warren Jeffs. Buc-ee's is coming to Wisconsin. She's excited. And Susan loves Buc-ee's Beavers Nuggets.
Okay.
It sounds almost explicit in a weird way, but it invokes my best friend's name. Phil Waters, I meant to ask you this in the beginning, and then I promised we're going to end the show. When Nugget and you reunite in just a few weeks' time, it's just maybe 5 weeks. This is your cult, sir. Just a raggedy hobo. I love it. Are you related to Boho Hobo? That's what I want to know. What was I just going to ask? Signed copy. Glad you asked. I didn't bring it up. SignedSurvivorBook.com. SignedSurvivorBook.com. And the tour is starting. What was I just going to ask Phil? Oh, it's going to kill me now. It was a very important question. It'll come back to me. Let me read this final story. They are flightless but fearless. Scores of baby penguins bravely dove off of a massive 50-foot cliff for their first ever swim in the icy Antarctic waters below. I'm about to show it to you, but I want to let you know. Award-winning National Geographic cinematographer Bertie Gregory. I love the name, Bertie Gregory. He spent 2 months tracking a 10,000 strong flock of emperor penguins on the Antarctic Peninsula, where he captured never before seen behavior on camera. Never ever seen before. It's called fledging, when they take their first swim. Normally they jump off of sea ice, which is 1 or 2 feet high. They were noticing on this time around that these were trains of chicks were going to a different place. They were diving off a 50-foot cliff, their first swim ever. Never tell me I only talk about bad news. Here we go.
I can't believe that. He's made it. So we know these chicks have grown up together and they stick together. I think
that's pretty much the video. I got to say this. I could literally cry from this. This is the type of thing that would just want to get it to a better point here and then This is the type of thing that would make my mother cry, I think. This is no words. Phil Waters, if you don't believe in a higher being after seeing this, I don't know what would prompt one to do that. What do you see when you look at these chicks, these penguins, a beautiful family out in the wilderness, in the wide open, no cell phones, no Instagram, no nonsense, just the beauty of nature, doing what they do naturally, diving into the water for their first swim. Your response, Phil Waters.
It looks to me like it's AI.
It's not AI. This is real. This is legit. I'm telling you, it's legit.
Okay, well, to answer your question, I mean, it just reinforces me that we have a creator, and that's if this is real.
Phil is questioning National Geographic. You see that National Geographic logo up there, Phil?
I know, you know.
Watch, it's going to turn out to be
no difference to me.
It's going to be the biggest scandal to ever hit National Geographic. They used AI. These penguins don't exist.
I mean, you know, I don't see the guy with the penguins. I see the guy in a shot, and then there's the penguins. So I would prefer to see the guy standing behind the penguins making this shot, but or at least the drone that they're using shows a picture of where he is operating the drone. So I need a little bit more evidence of this being real. But nonetheless, even if it is something that was generated, it is a beautiful, beautiful rendering. And again, it just reinforces in me that we do have a creator.
This is going to make me immediately. By the way, we have breaking news in the Waldman home. We have a new sofa. Our other one literally was stained with ketchup, ice cream, grape juice. For some reason, the COE and I decided to get a somewhat light couch. Ethel thinks it's her bed. I'm not letting Fred up there. Fred is clawing. It's already destroyed after 2 hours. There was a point that I was going to bring. I can't
get those plastic covers that my parents used to have for.
That's what I want. I even told this like the old grandparents. Yeah, but the COE told me to buzz off with that. Scott Duffy. Oh, I know what it was. Someone asked, "Are we going to be in Nashville?" The answer is the COE and I are going to CrimeCon. We will be there, and if you want to go, when you're buying the ticket, you can put in code STS. It's easy to remember, code STS. But we will be there, and I will be signing a book. Scott Duffy, you're an animal lover. You're looking at this beautiful fake penguin generated by someone in Steven Spielberg's company, jumping off this glacier here, this wall of ice. What does it do for does it warm your heart seeing them going into frigid water?
What I'd like is when the first one goes, everyone waits to see if he pops back up. I think if he didn't pop back up, the others would be like, turn around and let's get out of here. But then they all started going in some sort of jubilation. And so it's,
that's actually I always thought I was observant, but I'm not, but you're so right. Like they did wait to see how this guy did, right? By the way, the COE is giving me a heart attack and she always does. She's doing this on purpose, talking about instigators, telling me we're going to get a copyright strike now from YouTube because we played the music. That's great. It's been nice knowing everybody. We're going to lose the channel this weekend thanks to the Penguins. It's been a great run, everybody. Guess I'll still see you at CrimeCon. But Scott, your final thoughts here. You're completely right. They waited. I didn't notice this. They wait for him to pop his head. Do you really think if he didn't pop up, they would have turned around and said, "See ya"? Wouldn't want to be ya.
It's a distinct possibility because then they start all going. So, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore because if there's a lawsuit pending,
Do you think that if let's say he didn't pop back up, do you think that they would have been sad collectively?
Yeah, I think it would have made, yeah. Unless it would, talking about cults, unless they all took the plunge and like, let's go, drink the Kool-Aid.
I'll end with this, and then we'll just say our quick goodbyes. But Phil Waters, I always ask Harm, when Ethel and Fred are wrestling, I'm like a 13-year-old, and I'm like, do you think these dogs speak to each other? Do they understand? Do they have feelings for one another? What are your thoughts on that when they are wrestling with each other? Or when we leave and they're sitting there staring at each other, wondering where we have gone.
Oh, there is something to that. Sure there is. I know that when we leave our poppy dog with our friend, and she gets to go to her summer camp with her compadre Dodger, and they run around and have a good time and all that good stuff. But when we come back, she knows I always had the fear that she'd kind of forget us. But I'm telling you what, when we come back, she immediately goes into her whoop whoops and starts jumping up and, giving us bully hugs and all that stuff. So there's no doubt that there's that dogs in particular, they do miss their loved ones. I'll put it that way. I don't like to use the term owners, but they're whoever their family is, they do miss them. And that's why you see, I'm always amazed about these stories where somebody will lose a dog will get stolen or whatever, and then they move out of state, hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away, and then somehow the dog shows up at the new location. And that's always amazing to me when that stuff happens. So yeah, they're loyal, loving, and they do have. And I think that if you look at the picture of George Patton, General Patton had a bull terrier named Willie.
Willie, I like that
named
name.
Willie. He named it for William the Conqueror, but apparently Willie came face to face with, I think, a French poodle and immediately got on his back. So he said, no longer calling him William, he now has been relegated to being called Willie. So, but when Patton died, they had his container there, and his some of his helmet, some of his things, personal items there, and then you see Willie, who is laying down in front of that stuff, mourning the loss of General Patton. We've seen this too with canine officers that have been killed in the line of duty, and their dogs are on stand in front of the casket. So yeah, there is a bond between specific to dogs and their families that certainly is shown in many different ways. So yeah.
Well, I hope those penguins are enjoying their swim. STS is Aries, as in the astrological sign. Makes sense. Today is our birthday. I had no idea. You learn new things about yourself. Today is our birthday. Phil, you always take us out with a final thought. Then we'll get Scott. Scott will have the final word today. Scott's like, get me off. I have to leave. Do you have to leave this second, Scott?
I am late. I'm late. But
he's late. All right. We'll make it super quick. Phil, 3 words or less to say goodbye.
3 words or less?
Yeah. That's it. You're done. Scott?
Love you all. Happy birthday.
That was actually 4 words. So I used the Joe Biden count for words.
Well, let's let Scott go. Everyone, it's been a fantastic show. One of my favorite ones. A little bit of dark, a little bit of heavy. By the way, it's Deep Thinker Deb's birthday. Happy birthday, Deep Thinker Deb. Hope you have a great day. Those penguins made me feel very happy. Me too. I wish how old is SGSA? We turned to true crime when the Kohberger thing happened. So we've been around in true crime like 16, 17 months, but we've been around probably a year before that with Carmen and I literally just doing shenanigans. Around 2 years, maybe. I have no idea. It's what's ahead of us, not what's behind us. Scott Duffy, are you off to a Phillies game? That's all I need to know. Nothing more.
I'm not off to a Phillies game today.
Okay. Well, you have fun. Phil, you have a great time. Love you, America. Love you, Antarctic. Love you, Penguins. Always love you, Penguins.